Warm welcome. Just give me 1 second. I'm getting some feedback. All right. So, welcome to this full moon practice. We'll take a minute to just center ourselves. So, just be present with yourself. So, many years back, I was talking to one of my teachers, and I asked him, how come it's so hard to quieten the mind? And the teacher said, it's not that hard. Let me show you. So he invited me to pay careful attention to what I'm hearing. So try right now, wherever you are. If you can pay careful attention to what you're hearing. And in the moment you're focusing on what you're hearing, so maybe there's sounds inside where you are or outside the house. If you're paying careful attention to what you're hearing, then check in that moment, do you have any distracting thoughts? So it's a very immediate way to come to inner silence. So anytime in your day, if you pay careful attention to what you're hearing, the word listen and silent have the same letters, Listen and Silent, which means when you're carefully listening, in that moment you are able to touch and a certain inner silence. So it's not that hard to silence the mind. You just have to pay careful attention to what you're hearing. And you can expand that into any sense door. If you pay careful attention to what you're seeing, if you pay careful attention to what you're smelling, tasting, touching, in that moment, you will not have any inner chatter. It's almost like you can have one or the other. You can't have both. So with this very simple teaching, I immediately realized that it's not that hard to access inner silence. The other important recognition is that, like for example, the fact that you can hear me now means that there is a background of silence. Like I'm not in a very noisy place. If I was in a very noisy place, you would not be able to hear me. If I was in a busy marketplace with a lot of traffic sounds, you'd not be able to hear me. So you can hear me because there's a background of silence. So anything that you can hear implies a background of silence. This is again a very good insight. Every experience has a background of silence and a background of stillness. And we're normally so caught up in the foreground, we're caught up in what people are saying or doing, that we miss the silence, we miss the background. I was doing a meditation practice called Mahasati when I was a monk. Mahasati involves, some of you learn this from me, it's a simple hand movement. So you make these simple hand movements. And I was doing this for several months. And at one point, what happened was I was not only aware of my own movements, I was aware of the movements of everyone in the room. So I was aware of that person walking, I was aware of that person sweeping something, dusting something. So I was aware of my movements and I was aware of everybody else's movements. Something very interesting happens when you become aware of everybody's movements. You notice that all movements are occurring on a background of stillness. Every movement is occurring on a background of stillness. What I'm talking about is really simple and not really complicated. But for me, this was quite a breakthrough. So you can access stillness and silence of mind at any time if you pay careful attention to what you're hearing. So again, try. What are the atmospheric sounds you can hear? Ambient sounds you can hear. In my case, I can hear some insects in the distance. And when I'm paying full attention to what I'm hearing, in that moment, I'm accessing inner silence. Also, the fact that you can hear me implies that there's a background of silence. If you can hear anyone, it implies there's a background of silence. And this is where it gets really interesting. If you can be aware of your own thinking, it implies a background of silence. And any movement implies a background of stillness. Any movement implies stillness. And somehow we are conditioned to focus more on the sound than on the silence, more on the movement than on the stillness, more on the foreground than on the background, more on the waves and less on the ocean. What about when someone is screaming at the top of their voice? Can you hear the background of silence then? The fact that you can hear them screaming, they're the background of silence. If there was a jet plane behind them, you wouldn't hear them screaming. And unless they're screaming at you right now, it's an imagination in your mind. It's a thought in your mind that is taking precedence on what's happening right now. So every thought implies a background of stillness and silence. That thought of imagining someone screaming, seeing their face, hearing their voice in your mind, is coming out of nothing and returning to nothing. So yes, that also implies a background of silence. It may be hard to access because we get emotionally triggered, but that doesn't mean it's not there. So for a long time, I practiced a form of meditation. Some of you may have heard of this called Vipassana. And in Vipassana meditation, you focus on change. So you focus on the breath, you focus on sensations, you focus on mind states, how they come and go, come and go, come and go. They keep changing. And I spent many years practicing this. And for me, an important breakthrough happened when I came across teachings of Ramana Maharshi and Punjaji, later on the Sagdat Maharaj. And they talk about who's meditating, who's the one who's a meditator, who's the meditator, who's meditating. I am. Oh, who am I? So gently the focus shifted from the meditation practice, whatever practice I was learning or doing, to who's the meditator, who's the one who's meditating. And that's not something you can really grasp. You can grasp the breath, you can grasp the mantra, you can grasp sensations, thoughts to some extent, but you can't really grasp the one who's doing it, the one observing it. So this is something you can't hold on to. It's something very, it's very ambiguous. But in that ambiguity, in that non-grasping, there was a kind of ease and a kind of fluidity which I had not experienced before. It did not come from just witnessing phenomena. Questioning who is the witness was for me very powerful. And then years later, I came across Kashmir Shaivism, which talked about going one step further. It said, what if Shiva and Shakti are not two? What is Shiva? Shiva is consciousness, and Shakti is the fluctuation, the change. Shiva is the observer. Shakti is the dance of manifestation. What if these two are not separate? What if these two are one? So there's something in me that's observing, witnessing, knowing, and there's something that is being known. And what if they're not separate? Or another way of asking it, where is the separating line? Go look for the separating line. And then even more recently, I came across this practice called GFT, which says don't even make an effort to do that. Don't even make an effort to distinguish the change from the one who's observing. Don't even make an effort to get to any particular state. So drop the entire bunch in a way. Put the whole thing down. Let the mind do its mind thing. Let the body do its body thing. Let the world do its world thing. And I don't know if any of this is suitable or valid for any of you. I can just share my experience. And you should all have autonomy and intelligence to check what works for you and what doesn't work for you. I'm just sharing my experience. So not looking for any particular mind state, not looking for any particular mental state, energetic state, any state. Not trying to get anywhere. Not trying to dissolve anything, achieve anything, become anything. In other words, the noise is not better than silence. Distraction is not better than being focused. Clarity is not better than confusion. This is very, very radical, very different from what we are told. But somehow for me, the result of all of this is that I'm no longer trying to get anywhere. I'm not trying to, like I said at the beginning, silence is always available. Just takes a moment to shift from the foreground to the background. Silence is always available. So silence is ever present. And one can focus on the activities, the noise, the sound, or one can focus on the silence, the stillness. Or one can recognize that they're not separate. They're not two. And none of those are better than any other state. And this non-seeking any particular state is very freeing, because it even takes away any kind of spiritual journey of trying to be more unified, trying to be more, trying to be deeper in some way, having deeper awareness, expanded awareness. And in a way, one is allowed to be human. One is allowed to have emotions. One is allowed to have fluctuations of mood. One is allowed to like and dislike things. And it really is like with the place we began from, that we were so sure it's not such a good place to be. And we went on all these different journeys, try to become better people. In my case, I read many self-help books. I attended many workshops, did meditation for many years, became a monk for many years, read so many things, learned emotional healing, and so many different things, so many attempts to improve myself. And at the end of it all, I come to a place where I allow myself to be as I am. There's a quote I read many years back. Jacob Lieberman said, "Do we ever really change? Do we ever really change? Or do we just accept ourselves the way we are? Do we ever really change? Or do we just learn to accept ourselves the way we are?" It's a challenging quote, because of course I've changed. Of course I'm no longer the same. But fundamentally, have you changed? Superficially, we can all change, but fundamentally, have you changed? There's a story of this rishi. He's meditating. And as he's meditating, a little mouse, baby mouse, falls into his hand. And he's surprised. Little female mouse. Maybe the mother was up there and she dropped it. And he's surprised a little mouse falling into his hand. Now what to do? So his wife has not been able to bear children. So he uses his supernormal powers and he converts his little mouse into a baby girl. And he goes to his wife and he says, here, this is a daughter for you to look after. The wife is very happy. He's always wanted a child. So she brings up this child and the child grows into a beautiful young girl. And now it's time to get her married. So the wife says, hey, you should find your daughter a suitable man, a suitable person to marry, suitable groom. So he says, certainly I will find a good groom. So he steps outside. Says, what is the most powerful thing I can see? And the sun is the most powerful. He talks to the sun and says, sun, would you be willing to marry my daughter? So sun says, of course, I'd love to marry your daughter. Happy to marry your daughter. So he goes to his daughter and says, guess what? The sun has agreed to marry you. He says, Father, I don't want to marry the sun. Sun is so hot. Can't even hug the sun. I'm going to get burned. Please find me someone else. He goes, Mr. Sun, very sorry. My daughter doesn't want to marry you. But is there someone more powerful than me? The sun says, yes. That cloud is more powerful than me. That cloud can cover me anytime. No matter how brightly I shine, the cloud covers me. I can't do anything. Thank you. So he goes to Mr. Cloud, will you marry my daughter? Very happy to marry your daughter. Great privilege. So he goes to his daughter and said, Mr. Cloud has agreed to marry you. What, father? I don't want to marry a cloud. Cloud is so wet. I'm going to get soaking wet. I don't want a cloud. Find me someone better. So he goes to the cloud and says, Mr. Cloud, sorry, my daughter doesn't want to marry you. Is there someone more powerful than you? Cloud says, yes, that mountain is more powerful than you. Because whenever the mountain comes, I have to split. I cannot pass through the mountain. It divides me up. It breaks me up. The mountain is more powerful than you. Thank you. Mr. Mountain, will you marry my daughter? Great honor. I'd be happy to marry your daughter. Thank you. So he goes to the daughter and says, guess what? Mr. Mountain has agreed to marry you. Father, what are these funny proposals you're getting? Mountain is full of cactus and thorns and rough stones. I don't want to marry a mountain. Find me someone else. So he goes to the mountain. Sorry, Mr. Mountain. My daughter doesn't want to marry you. Is there someone more powerful than you? He says, yes, there is someone more powerful than you. Who's that? There's a mouse who burrows holes into me, and I can't stop him from burrowing holes into me. This mouse is more powerful than I am. Mr. Mouse, would you be willing to marry my daughter? I'm very happy to marry your daughter. Goes to the daughter and says, Mr. Mouse has agreed to marry. Mouse? Mouse is so cute, so nice. I'd love to marry Mr. Mouse. But father, do me a favor. Can you make me also into a mouse? So father realized, oh, I tried to make her something else, but she is ultimately who she is. So he gives her a blessing, and instantly the girl becomes a mouse, and the little mouse, they both go and they live happily together. So I really like the story. It's told by Robert Adams. And the story talks about how we try to become someone else, try to become someone different. But could it be that at the end of it all, we have to learn to accept ourselves exactly the way we are? Embrace ourselves exactly the way we are. So I'm going to say it in a different way. Could it be that what you're looking for is not going to be found in time, is not going to be found in space? Could it be that what you're looking for will not be found in time, will not be found in space, will not be found in getting something, accumulating knowledge, money, prestige, power, influence, or whatever else you're trying to accumulate? Could it be that what you're looking for is right here, which you haven't noticed? Is that possible? We keep imagining when my circumstances improve, when so-and-so stops bothering me, when so and so changes, when my life situation changes, when I paid off my loans, when this happens, that happens, when I'm in better health, then it'll all be better. But I want to challenge you and say, what if what you are seeking is right here and you just haven't noticed? Could you be open to that possibility? It's not going to partially quench you, it's going to fully quench you. But for that, you have to be willing to dehypnotize yourself a little bit. If you're caught up and say, no, first this one has to change, that one has to change, I have to change, the world has to change, you will go on a very long journey, very long journey. The Buddha said, if you want to go on a long journey, take one companion along. What is that companion? Thirsty desire. If you want to go on a long journey, take one companion along. Thirsty desire. But if you're tired of all of these journeys, say goodbye to one companion. Thirsty desire. Right. You're welcome to have playful desires. Don't get into thirsty desire. A light desire will not be a problem. A tight desire will be a very big problem. What's a light desire? For example, I would like my internet connection to be strong enough so I can do this session. You can hear me. But if for any reason, electricity goes, internet goes, whatever happens, it's all right. I'll just say, okay, that's the way it was meant to be. We tried. Maybe I'll try to get an internet through my phone or something. But if it doesn't happen, it's not a problem. It's not going to frustrate me or irritate me. It's a light desire, not a tight desire. How can I assume that you're listening to me is better than anything else that you do? That's a big assumption. I can't know that. There's a powerful teaching in Zen. It says, first get enlightened, then work out your karma. First get enlightened, then work out your karma. What does it mean? First quench your thirst, then deal with all the ups and downs, all the idiosyncrasies of your personality. First get enlightened. What is first get enlightened? First quench your thirst. How do you quench your thirst? By realizing you already have what you're looking for. You already are what you're seeking. There's a teaching by Byron Katie. She says, I really like this teaching. You always have what you have, right? Right now, you have as much money as you have. You have as much health as you have. You have as many friends as you have. You have as many Instagram followers as you have. You have as many clothes as you have. You have as many homes and cars and whatever as you have. This is what you have. And now everything else is an imagination. Oh, I should have, I must have more money, more friends, more followers, more fame, more reputation, more whatever, more knowledge. And this is where you get thirsty. You always have what you have. You will always have what you have. What is, is. Lester Levinson says, I have everything I need as I need it. I have everything I need as I need it. This is a very powerful way of going through life. This is starting from enlightenment. This is starting from fulfillment, fullness, wholeness, not from thirst. Now you can play any game you like. Now you can have intentions. Now you can do stuff. And it works out or it doesn't. But it's coming from a solid foundation. I was teaching meditation as a teenager. I was teaching meditation to these children at a Vipassana center called Igatpuri, Dhammagiri. And there were these 15, 20 young children. And it was my work to, over 3 days, teach them meditation. And it might have been the second day when I was kind of struggling because these youngsters were not keen to listen to me. Whatever I was saying, they were interrupting me, they were getting distracted, they weren't focusing. And I was kind of not sure how to control them. I was losing my cool. So in the break, one teacher who'd been observing me, he called me to a side and he said, "You're saying all the right things, but there's irritation in your voice. You're saying all the right things, but there's irritation in your voice. If you want to teach peace, you have to be peaceful. You can't teach peace with agitation. If you want to teach peace, you have to be peaceful." And he gave me a really, of course, I didn't like hearing it. No one likes to be corrected. But he gave me a really important lesson, which is that more important than teaching these children how to meditate, teaching these children how to close their eyes and watch their breath or whatever, more important than that is to set an example. Whatever state of being I want them to access, achieve, I have to be able to access and achieve that state of being. If I'm not holding that, if I'm not in touch with that, what am I going to teach them? And I tried it. I said, okay, my priority is not for these children to listen to me. My priority is not for these children to meditate. My priority is to be in a state of that calm or whatever else I'm trying to take them to. I've got to be in that state. That's my priority. The moment I did that, there was a shift. Learned an invaluable lesson. Inside out, not outside in, inside out. So I'm doing this session with all of you today on Zoom. And it's actually not my priority what I teach. It's not my priority what you learn. That's not my priority. It's not even my priority if you feel good or not, if you like what I'm saying or not. That's not my priority. My priority is to be in an inner state of quenching. I have to be free of thirst within myself. I have to be inwardly settled, clear. To the extent I am, you will get what you need to get. To the extent I'm not, no matter what I say, it's going to miss the mark. No matter what I say, it's going to miss the mark. And this, such a simple thing I've said, but this can actually change the world. This can change the world. You take responsibility for your inner state. At home, at work, with your children, with your friends. You take responsibility for your inner state. You stop resisting your inner states. You stop fighting with them. You stop judging them. You stop being at war within yourself. Automatically, you're creating that around yourself. Nobody else has to change. Nobody else has to become anything. tomorrow morning onwards, we are starting this 7-day vibration experiment where for 7 minutes, we will in the morning, 7:30, something like that. 7 minutes, we will just be quiet. And as I'm quiet and everybody else who's part of that will be quiet, then a kind of alignment happens, attunement happens, the dropping away happens. And I have no real expectations. All I want to do is practice 7 minutes of silent stillness with whoever joins. It's not done on Zoom or anything. Wherever you are, you can just tune in. 7 minutes. Just be quiet. Once in a while, I might give a little guidance on the WhatsApp group. I experienced this when I was living in a small monastery north of Bangkok. And I'd been living there for many months, and my mind was very disturbed. My meditation wasn't going so well. I was feeling like everything was difficult. It's like when you're walking through mud, everything is heavy and difficult. And one morning, this teacher suddenly came to visit. I didn't know him. I never heard of him. He spoke only Thai. I couldn't understand what he was saying. But he was just there for 2-3 hours. While he was there, I just felt this flow within myself. My mind became clear. I was so present. It's like a heavy weight had fallen off my shoulders. I didn't know who this teacher was. I didn't know what it was about him. He was quite old, must have been in the 70s or 80s. And after he left, I asked someone, who is this? Who is this teacher? I've never heard of him, never seen him. Although he's a very, very well-practiced monk. He's lived in the forest for 40, 50 years. And people consider him to be enlightened. Well, I don't know. I don't know much about him. But all I know is that while he was there for those 2-3 hours, without even understanding what he said, just his presence created a kind of clarity, stillness in me, which all that meditation, other things had not done. So this is resonance. We teach through resonance. We think we teach through words and actions. No, we teach through resonance. And the more we understand this, the more we move from force to power. Force is you try to convert people by saying and doing stuff. You change, you change, you change. Best of luck, no one changes. Power. An inner shift happens, an inner alchemy happens. This is power. I didn't understand what that teacher said. I didn't know who he was. I had no story in my mind. Just being with him, something in me, calm down, settle down. Power. So you shift from force to power. You shift from outside in to inside out. And maybe you even go beyond that. You collapse the difference between inside and outside. So my wish for you would be that your very presence, whether you say something or not doesn't matter, whether you do something or not doesn't matter. Your very presence has the ability to heal, has the ability to lighten the load, has the ability to free and liberate, has the ability to inspire. Your very presence. How beautiful is that? Whether you say something or not doesn't matter. Do something or not doesn't matter. Your very presence creates a field where this shift just happens. If it needs to happen. If it doesn't need to happen, it's fine. Not even attached to a shift happening. And it's really true that more important than what I'm saying, the words, the stories, the examples, the practices, the pointers, more important than what I'm saying is the silence behind these words. Is the silence, the stillness they're coming from. These words come from nowhere and go to nowhere. They come from nothing and they go to nothing. They come from no one and they touch the no one that's there, that thinks it's listening. So in a way, nothing is happening here. And this nothing is so precious, so rare, hardly ever valued. I got a message from someone today saying, Nithya, your work really changes lives. I want you to know, your work really changes lives. I found that fascinating because at some level, I'm not attached to changing lives. I don't mind if no one's life changes as a result of what I do. But I think there's something there because I don't have a strong attachment to wanting to change lives. It had a life-changing impact. This is very strange. If I was trying very hard to change lives, I don't know how impactful that would be. So it's really fascinating that in accepting people the way they are, in accepting myself the way I am, and accepting life the way it is, change, shifts, and transformation are happening. Life is full of these paradoxes. There was something going on and somebody had not replied to me, and I was getting a little irritated because I had reminded 2, 3 times. And I was feeling tempted to send a strong message saying, please get back. I need to make a decision on something. I didn't do it. I waited. And a few hours later, I said, just let it go. There's no need to hold on so tight to this. So I just relaxed and let it go. Within half an hour, this person called. And what needed to be done got done. It's a small little example, but I've seen this happen again and again. That when I don't push too hard or pull too hard, when I don't push and pull too much, things just fall in place. Too much of pushing and pulling, too much trying to control others, myself, life. Even if you temporarily get what you want, in the long run, doesn't really get you what you were hoping to get. So it's the principle of non-interference, the principle of non-judgment, non-resistance, non-controlling. Is this the right philosophy for you? I don't know. Maybe you need to go through controlling, pushing, pulling. Maybe you need to go through that. But for me at this time, it's perfect. And it really feels very clean, very open, no fuss, very little suffering, if any. No worry, no anxiety, no panic attacks. Non-interference, no pulling, no pushing. Very clean, very simple. So when you focus on what you're hearing, instantly there's a kind of inner silence, right? And in order to hear my voice, there has to be some silence. Silence behind me, silence behind you. In order to hear anything, there has to be silence. Sound implies silence. Even thoughts imply silence. In order to think something, there has to be a layer of silence, stillness beneath it. To me, this is a very important recognition. Because now sounds can happen, talking can happen, activities can happen, a lot of doing can happen. And yet, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. It's completely still. It's completely silent. So at some level, the words are coming from silence, returning to silence. The actions are coming from stillness, returning to stillness. Where is the residue? Where is the leftover? Where is the unfinished business here? It's complete. Everything is complete. There's no journey of becoming a better person. There's no journey of pleasing some guru or some god or some deity. There's no journey of growing in awareness or spirituality or enlightenment or anything. There's no journey. It's complete. What's done is complete. This taste is so precious, so rare. Almost no one gets to taste this. So caught up. So we teach by resonance. You may imagine you teach by words and actions. You teach by resonance. What's resonance? Presence and intention. Combination of presence and intention. As you're present anyway, you can't not be present. As you're present with whatever state, you're not in opposition to yourself, you're not in opposition to others. Like the story I told you of the little girl who wants to be a mouse. The girl who wants to be a mouse again. It's a radical non-interference, non-control, non-judgment. It's a radical trusting the intelligence of life. And there's a great symmetry that emerges. Everything is in the right place. Even what seems to be in the wrong place also turns out to be in the right place. And now you do whatever you do. Don't do whatever you don't do. And it's all quite beautiful. It's all quite beautiful. Not pretending to be something, trying to become something. So if anybody wants to ask something, you put it in the chat. If you want to share something or ask, put it in the chat. I'd rather you put it in the chat. What to do when you don't know what to do. So what I've learned is when you don't know what to do, that's a clear indication that you're not meant to do anything right now. And that can change a few minutes from now, a few years from now. So when you don't know what to do, you do nothing. And it's a dynamic universe. It will not remain like that forever. If you don't know what to do, you trust you don't know what to do. When there's nothing to do, do nothing. When there's something to do, give it everything you got. And the deeper idea here is you imagine you make decisions. In my understanding, we don't make decisions. Decisions make themselves. We imagine we make decisions. So if you don't know what to do, just wait. Some more information has to come. Some more perspectives have to come. And then decision makes itself. I don't know if this is practical advice, but this is the way I operate. When I don't know what to do, I don't do anything. I wait. You said to accept yourself. If we accept ourselves, why would we change anything that should be changed? You accept yourself, and if still some change is needed, you can make the change. Another way of saying this is everything is perfect, including your desire to improve it. You accept yourself, and if there's something you want to change, you feel like changing, then change. Best of luck changing it. You may or may not succeed in changing it. You try. But you start by accepting yourself. Why should you accept yourself? Because this is the way you are. If you start from a foundation of judging yourself, hating yourself, being upset with yourself, that is not a foundation from which any proper change can happen. And even if you do change, let's assume you do change, you will always live in fear. What if I go back to that? What if I go back to that? So that is not the way proper transformation can happen. So start by accepting yourself. So another way of saying this is what's perfect, what can be joyfully improved, what's good, what can be done in a better way. Yeah. Accepting doesn't mean that you never make course correction. There can be course correction. Like if you lost your way, you accept, I've lost my way. And then what do you need to get back to where you were? You ask for direction if you have to. If you're angry and upset with yourself, if you're in panic and fear mode, then how will you do anything? So accept where you are, maybe an unpleasant place, accept it. And then if something needs to be done, you can do it. Could you please add balancing the stillness and silence with the action part, how to maintain this in action challenge? Why do you need to maintain these? They're always there. They're always there. Just recognize they're always there. So right in the middle of your action, in a single second, you can access it. It's always there. And there's a lovely short teaching. Short moments of resting in silence, resting in clarity, repeated many times becomes continuous. Short moments of resting in clarity, repeated many times becomes continuous. So how do you do it in the middle of action? You take short moments, tiny moments. Who am I? What is this? Or give your full attention to what's happening. Like when I was talking about Mahasati, I was aware of everyone's actions, my own actions, everybody else's actions. And right there was stillness. The actions were emerging from stillness, returning to stillness. So I would just say be wholehearted. When in action, be wholehearted. The stillness will be evident. We lose it because we are half-hearted, actually. And don't have to make a very big effort to maintain it. It's always there. There's nothing to maintain. It's just that our mind is getting a little cloudy right now. That's all. It's always there. So you can't lose it, in other words. Yeah. I wanted to ask, suddenly you're having something in a cup. When did you go to the kitchen to make it? I didn't go to the kitchen. It was right here. Is it okay to be selfish? Like, you know, the other person is hurting your feelings and you decided to walk away, but at the same time, a part of you feels like maybe the person needs you and it's not okay to just walk away. What is one supposed to do? I wouldn't call that selfish. That's just intelligent. Why is that? Why is that selfish? Someone is hurting you, taking advantage of you, not treating you respectfully. I think it's just intelligent. If I start coming and punching you and slapping you, you should move away. That's not selfish. That's just intelligent. And I might not be doing it physically, but I'm doing it emotionally. I'm doing it another way that I'm manipulating you. No, it's just intelligent. I wouldn't call that selfish. I like this quote by Byron Katie. She says, I trust you to be the way you are. I trust you not to be who you say you are. I trust you to be the way you are. So if again and again you tell me you will not shout at me, but you do. You will not be late, but you are. You will not talk about me behind my back, but you do. You will not make fun of my friends or my parents, but you do. Then I trust you to be the way you are. I don't trust you to be what you say you'll be. Right? Once, twice, thrice. Yeah, I trust you to be the way you are until you show me otherwise. So I don't think that's selfish. I think that's just intelligent. And no need to feel guilty about the other person needs you. The other person needs to get their act together. And they don't need you to keep on being their rescuer. And you're not here to rescue anybody. That's my perspective. You may not agree with that, but that's my perspective. Thank you so much for wonderful. What if you feel you're the worst person in the world? And you feel you have hunted everyone who loves you? When you're so terrible that you don't even feel sorry for what you've said or done. You aren't feeling guilty. Can't explain further. Well, if you're not feeling guilty or sorry, then why are you feeling you're the worst person in the world? Quite an accomplishment to be the worst person in the world. So these are all ideas: worst person in the world, best person in the world. Again, I would come back to what we talked about today. Can you reduce the pulling and pushing? Pulling, pushing, you shouldn't be, I shouldn't be, they shouldn't be, life shouldn't be, why have they done this, why have I done this? Too much of pulling and pushing. You are the way you are, they are the way they are. Life is the way it is. Can you take micro moments of touching this stillness, silence I talked about today? Every time you do this, the grip of your story reduces. Who are you without your stories? These are very big stories. I'm the worst person in the world. I've hunted people who love me. I've been so terrible. I don't even feel sorry. These are very big stories you're telling. And they obviously have very strong emotions connected to them. So take a break from so much mind activity. You're going to say it's hard to do. It's not hard to do. That's another thought. It's right here. It's right here. If you pay careful attention to what you're hearing now, silence is right here. If you can hear what I'm saying, then the background is silence. If you're aware of your thought, then the background is stillness. So keep taking these micro moments of clarity, micro moments of stillness. And also behind what you've said is a lot of assumption that you are the doer. You're the one who's sitting and deciding, I'm going to be bad to people, I'm going to trouble people, I'm going to hunt people. You're not deciding this. It's just coming somehow, this is emerging in you, and that's emerging in them. Where is it emerging from? For a long time, it didn't emerge. Now it's emerging. And so it's a happening. It's not right or wrong. It's a happening. If you can reduce the baggage of stories, the baggage of trying to be something, wanting them to be a certain way, wanting yourself to be a certain way, wanting life to be a certain way, you can reduce the volume of that even a little bit. Things will flow easier for you. And maybe it's a time for drama in your life. We have to go through phases with a lot of drama in our life. So be it. Let's go through the drama. But don't make a stronger identity at the end of the day. Don't make a stronger idea of who you should be and who they should be. This is very heavy baggage. Just go through it. Just let it go through you. Let all of this just happen. This whole drama has come out of nowhere. Let it go back to nowhere. What if you feel committed but unattached to your purpose? Like you love it with the distance. I think that's the best way to do it, actually. That's not what the motivational speakers talk about. But I think that is the right way to go about it. There is commitment, but there's not attachment. There's no attachment. I'm pretty committed. I show up for these calls. I don't have to, but I show up for them. I show up for most of my session. Once in a while, if I'm traveling or something, I can't. Or if I oversleep, I can't. But 99% of the time, I show up. But I'm not really attached to it. I'm not really attached to people getting transformed. I'm not really attached to people liking my work. I'm not really attached to people being my students, coming for all my courses. No. So there is a kind of love, but there's also a kind of distance, like you said. There is a kind of commitment, but there's also a non-attachment. And to me, that fits really well. I'm grateful I'm not one of those evangelical, highly eager to change the world, save the world, improve the world. Everyone should come and learn from me. I have the magic pill. No, I don't think I have the magic pill. I don't even want to have the magic pill. So I am, in my own way, I am representing a particular frequency in this world, as are you, and as is everyone else. And I'm not here to imitate or copy or say that mine is better than anybody else's. I'm just representing a particular frequency in this world, a particular resonance in this world. At this moment, it feels quite authentic. It may change. And that's it. And then whatever needs to happen from that happens. I want to meet a few celebrities. Can I meet them? Can these wishes be fulfilled? Yeah, maybe you can. Maybe you can't. Why would you assume something magical will happen if you meet them? I think you're looking for a certain feeling of awe when you meet these people who you consider very special. It's nice, yeah, nice to have that zing. Oh, this is a celebrity. And butterflies in your stomach. Oh my goodness. Feeling starstruck. But they're just people like you, you know. I'm just a person. You can imagine I'm this or that. I'm just a person. So while you can meet these celebrities or not, my wish for you would be that you celebrate whoever you do meet more than meeting this or that celebrity. When the person comes to your house to make food or clean the house, or when you meet the person who's selling you the movie tickets, celebrate. This is a complete human being. Not all these names you took, Modi ji, Kangana, Sunil Shetty. Why do you want to meet them? You've seen stuff on television, YouTube. You have an idea of who they are. It's all made up. It's all made up. Even about me, it's all made up. How do you know who I am? Based on a few Zoom calls? You have no clue who I am. So how about just meeting everyone you meet with openness and celebrate each meeting? Like we say, the highest in me bows to the highest in me. That's a beautiful spirit. Sometimes very disappointing to meet people you admire, you know. The bubble gets burst. All right. Thank you all for joining today. We'll take a minute of silence. Very nice. All right, everybody, be well.